This is another excited moment of the third hour of our lecture for this 8 week. So far, so good. We have been talking about the element of culture, and we have tactically dealt with 2 point or 3 point the common life practice in a society. So culture it's involved common life, a life that people together are looking up to, a life that people together are working towards the success of the life. And then we also saw number two, which is the symbol of a group identity. Now, culture is a symbol of identity. Every culture identify the kind of people, their culture, their language, and so many things that has to be of their kind. And so without culture, we won't be able to differentiate between Asia, Europe, Africa, and all other continents. So we want you to know that culture is very, very important in our daily lives. And so we talk about equally persecuted communities within a country might see a national or regional flag as a symbol of oppression rather than freedom. This symbolizing a dominant way of life that exclude them, other countries, not everyone. And we have also seen the third one, which is the stories of our place in the world. This is very important. A story is very important in every individual life, and every country that really existed without a story, something is wrong. And I said the third element of the culture is the power of a story. A story identify you and connect you with certain figure or certain idea or certain things that will make you famous or also bring you to where you can work together. And so this third element is very important in our daily lives as Christian and as pagan and whichever religion and place you come from. The, the story of our place in the world is important. Every country gives a story of their independence. You can see the differences in what happened before they were being left alone. And the fourth element that we have talked about is the element of agreement on what is good. This element of what is good is the way a society decide what it means to have a good life. Living a life that is practical, living a life that is worth emulating, living a life that will give a better name for each country. How many countries today have a better life to live? Living without fear, living without obstruction, living without being terrorized, living without chasing others, living in fulfillment and in peace without a problem. This is what we have studied in our second hour. In our third hour, we will virtually move to see the differences between Christianity or between religion and uh, culture. So we will virtually move to the PPT as we continue now to see what is the religion and culture, the differences and similarities. If I may bring your attention down, and if we have an open class, we would have find a good thing that we can talk about. When you talk about the differences uh, of religion and culture, one of it you can say is that culture may be thought of as a casual agent that affect the evolutionary process by uniquely human means, while religion, on the other hand, is consider a process of revelation and contains the concept of the faithful who receive the message of revelation. So you can see the idea are different. So if that is the different, then is religion and culture the same? That's another question. We're talking about similarity. Culture is is bigger picture. Culture is a body of knowledge that is acquired by people through years of being together in one society, while religion is a belief. So you can see the different thing. Culture is a bigger picture, a body of knowledge, but religion is a belief system directed towards the supreme deity. And yet, this is something that may or may not be accepted by each person in a culture. So you can see that there are differences and there are similarities of culture and religion together. Okay, so if you go further, people can give you various meaning and word of this kind of thing. So culture may be thought as as a casual agent that affect the evolutionary process by uniquely human means. Religion, on the other hand, as I've said, is what? So there are dangers, however, in accepting cultural relativism without any constraint, such as respect for human life and dignity. In such our discussion, we want to make the attempt to clarify the boundaries between religion and culture and acknowledge that further research is needed on the religion and culture dichotomy. Now, you can hear many things. So, a reminder is what we are coming here. Culture, among many other definitions, is the sum total of ways of living built up by a group of human beings and handed down from one generation to another. Okay? And then Christianity, on the other hand, is a group of people that believe that Jesus was the Messiah, is the Messiah, and is there. As you can see, culture is something all humans have. Christianity is something only a part of humanity believes, not all. So cultures is all about everyone, while humanity, Christianity or religion is about virtually everyone. A part of people, not everyone. Christianity is just one of many cultural products human made. So it's a product from human, not conspiracy, but understanding and agreement, and begin to follow and believe what it takes. And that is what we are talking about. Religion teaches certain ways of life, which can give rise to similar habits and culture across different areas. However, other factors such as climate, language, their previous culture, etc., etc., will shape their future habit and culture too. Over time, religion religion will homogenize these various or variations, but never perfectly or fully not its interest in doing so. In doing so, that is what we are learning about uh, religion. We have explored elements of religion and culture and offered various brief examples from an individual, national, and international perspective. What else do we do? While it has been important to consider each concept separately, highlighting the particular ways that religion and culture influence international relations, there are clear interlinked edges between them. Theories have long drawn such links, and these are useful for our consideration. Okay, are fully for our consideration. For example, the anthropologist Clifford Gaze famously described religion as a cultural system composed of myths, rituals, symbols, and beliefs created by humans as a way of giving our individual and collective um, lives a sense of meaning. Now, our life is important only if we can give a good meaning to it. But when life is not important, then there will not be good meaning to that. So it's an attempt of creating a sense, something that is important in our daily life, something that is important that people can look up to and be able to hold and say, perhaps things are well being stipulated. Consider the similarities between the elements of religion and culture which described in this chapter, uh, such as the role of symbols and stories in both accounts, and the pursuit of life according to what either faith or culture determines to be the higher standards of living. The higher standard of living. Our standard of living could be seen in a various ways. An important question that we can also think about, ask, is whether culture should be necessarily understood as a larger, more significant category in international relations, always casting religion as subset within it. Maybe it's possible. But if we can look at culture in a larger form, like I said at the beginning, that Christianity is found in between culture, in the sense that from the cultural setting, people dictate and decided to play their way of life in the society. And so whatever you see people doing was created out of what culture has given them. They buy it from culture, they initiate it from culture, and such a view makes sense because no one religion encompasses an entire society in the whole, in the world today. And no society lives entirely according to one set of sacred rules of practice. Now each practices being formed in a different society, in a different organization, in a different areas cannot be the same with the next one. Countries have different rules, secrets, to have different practices, belief, and also way of life. So we cannot turn the way of life in Asia and make it in Africa or Europe or whatever, South America or East America or whatever. Every continent, every country also have their own set of way of life. So it is not a matter of debate, neither is it a matter of us getting ourselves into a problem. On the other hand, in some contexts, religious authority and identity can be more significant than any other cultural element. Now, Example of those kind of things are American soldiers move into Iraq city of Najjar in 2003 to negotiate security arrangements. Okay, it was not the town major or the police chief that had most influence. Rather, it was the reclusive religion leaders Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani, whose authority influenced not only the city but much of the fracturing nations itself. Taking another example, if we can look at it, is that when communist authority confronted striking dock workers in Portland within the years of 1979 or 80s, it was not only union that opposes them, but also the Catholic Church, whose priests performed sacred rituals and stood in a solidarity with strikers in open defense of the government. So these are few or two examples that we have seen that have given us the issue of religious authority and identity that can be more significant than any other cultural element. Why? Because in reality, Christianity or religions play a vital role in a society, in a community, even it can change the society. Take an instance in Nigeria back in the 60s or 80s, before the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, when a Christian is called into a court to testify for someone, the judge always appreciate what they say because they never lie, because they kept to their word, and they are always sincere to whatever they do. That was then, but today the reverse is the case. People are no longer trusted for what it's but called lies and faith. In both these examples, the elements of religion are equally, if not more, prominent than the elements of culture. Perhaps one thing or the other, the most useful approach, therefore, is to see the elements of religion and the elements of culture in constant interactions with one another. So the reality is that it is together. They work together, they do things together. Anything you do matters in the life of what? Of people, culturally and also spiritually. So there is nothing one can do that could jeopardize the connection between religion and also uh, uh, people or culture. Now, we have explored just four elements for each category. What might some other elements be from you? What are some of the elements that you might think that could be possible? So I want us to ponder, or people can go and write also about this kind of question. What other elements we can find concerning culture and also religion, and what are their impact to individual and the international life that we live? There are so many excellent resources to assist us in exploring such questions. These include an introduction to religion in um, in informational relation by Toff, Philpott, and Sarah in their book, An Examination of Religion in a Global War by Hennest, edited by Hoover and John Stone in 2012. The International Relations edited collection Nations Under God is the book that you can find so many things. May I say to you that these questions is important and I want you to do something about it. So now these lead us to what we can talk about, a question in the sense we can say, can we work together? Okay, this is another point of utilizing our religion and our culture. Can we all live together? I gave you that question sometime. One of the most pressing questions related to our study is whether religion and culture actors and agendas have more of a positive or negative effect on a global affairs. That's another important thing. As we have seen above, these elements relate to some of the deepest level of human experience, both individual and internationally. So, should policy markers try to release the powerful energy of religio cultural identity for the sake of a better war, or should they try to keep a lead on it for fear of only lashing forces that might damage our capacity to get along with others? This is crucial and really important in our daily lives. Whatever we do has its own tag and also will continue to help us as we continue to look into life of its own. The value of a both ON approach. Interestingly, but difficult sometimes, the study of international relations, which we are talking about, shows that the answer may be to draw on both strategies since religio-cultural identity inhabits a space somewhere between the problems of conflict and the possibilities of cooperation. So conflict under the religio-cultural identity always come out between people and the other people. This approach can be seen as an adaptation of Appleby influential ideas of the ambivalent of the sacred, in which the elements of religio-cultural politics we have explored above carry simultaneously the potential for both violence and peace. Now, it sounds so good and it sounds so interesting, but whatever we do has always been the reverse in our different way of life. The usefulness of this approach is that it helps us to break free from the restriction of an either logic about religion and culture, which is said either conflict and cooperation. So, whatever we do, we need to understand ourselves. Instead, we can focus on both analysis, which allows individual and international examples of each people, both conflict or and cooperation, to inform us about politics of religion and culture at the global level. The influential scholar Martin E. Marty in 2003 will add that such an approach helps us to deepen our understanding of world politics as really is. And I'm glad that most of us are getting familiar with this lecture. So far, we have worked towards the influential idea while we came to where a wonderful scholar would have given us paramount or whatever we can talk about for our next week lecture, where he talks about logic in mind. He talks about considering comparative example of what people do. Now, culture we have talked about so much. Culture has become part of us, and without culture, there is nothing we can do to make it better. And so, this is where we have come to for this week. And I want to remind you that we should be so close, or we should be attentive to whatever we are doing, because it's gonna help us in the future when we find ourselves in dealing with culture and people that are not of the same ethnicity. Thank you, viewers, for watching this lecture for the Edwick. And for those who are my student, I want to give you the homework, which is your task, and also the midterm exam, which is an assignment that you have to write and submit to me. So at the end of this lecture, I will put it behind so that you can see it and be able to function by and follow the question so that you can answer it properly. Thank you, and see you next week. Please remember, turn off your midterm assignment within 1 or 2 weeks. I'll give you the final date for next week, but I'll give you grace. See you again next week, and have a wonderful week. Yeah,